You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Hey Greg, I've got a movie pitch for you.
Hit me with it.
I think we need to make a big sequel to Wonder Woman. It was a smash hit.
Yeah, I love it.
We're going to move it to the 80s. We're going to bring back Gal Gadot. We're going to bring back Chris Pine.
Didn't he die?
Yeah, but we'll just have her make a wish, and he'll come back in some other dude's body.
Okay. Are they still going to be romancing?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I have some notes.
Welcome, everyone, to I Have Some Notes, the podcast where our greatest wish is to make movies better. And welcome, everyone, to our very first live broadcast. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
I'm Gregg Beever.
And today we are joined by our guest, the proprietor of a wonderful website for cosplay gear, FoamArmory.com. Please welcome Stephanie Chan.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah. We are discussing Wonder Woman 1984 today, WW84, as the hashtags call it.
It is a movie, and we saw it.
Yeah.
For you.
Perfect finale to our season of podcasts. We thought we'd do it live, taking a little break after this, and we're so happy. 70's here to join us, and all of you in the chat. So, yeah, and then Wonder Woman here for the final run. What was your Stephanie? Please tell us about FoamArmory. Actually, I'm really excited to learn about this website because I do a lot of improvised Dungeons and Dragons, and I will be hitting you up soon.
Oh, I think we need to talk afterwards. So FoamArmory is like the innovation of me and my business partner, Ben Eady. Ben Eady's background is movie props, and I myself actually have a background in comic books. I am a comic book colorist as well. And we kind of teamed up in a Steve Jobsy Wozniak serendipitous kind of way and started making foam armor components. The first item that we created was the chainmail. And that was an interesting journey because during the creation of that, Ben had a gig working in on the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, actually, as one of the prop guys. He got sent to California, had this meeting with one of the California prop guys named Adam Savage. You might know him from Mythbusters.
Mythbusters? Adam Savage?
And Adam got so excited with the product, he excitedly made a little podcast and put Ben on his show show called Tested. It's one of those little YouTube channel things. Mm-hmm. And once Ben came back to Calgary, we got together one morning for breakfast, knowing that Adam was uploading the video. And we're like, oh, so I guess we're selling this thing, huh? We'll see what happens. So we made a little website for it, and that weekend we had 300 sales.
Amazing.
Of chainmail. Yeah. And then since then, the pandemic happened, so nobody was cosplaying. So we kind of like things were going along. We had sales over the pandemic, which was actually fascinating because people were still finding things to do and get ready for maybe when we get out of it. And then this year we released the scale mail product that we put on Kickstarter. We asked for $5,000. It ended up cracking $47,000. And it's a thing.
Congrats. It's off we go.
Foam armorer. Yeah, and here I am.
Very, very cool. I was just very endeared by that story and success. But also your background is in comics, so please a little about that as well.
For sure, totally. I grew up forever around comic books. My sister was super heavy into it. She had like a massive collection already by the time I was born. And my mom actually was a big fan of, she had Action Comics, Detective Comics, and Mad Magazine's her ultimate favorite. She actually has had every issue of Mad Magazine ever, read up until the end. like last year.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So I grew up in a comic household. People ask that question. Oh, what was your first comic book? I have no idea. My first comic book was whatever I tore through and had my sisters. Yeah, exactly. Kind of thing. Whatever my mom had to rebuy for my sister was probably my first comic. And so I always grew up around comic books. I've always had a big love of technology, entered digital coloring, and I got really into the idea of coloring comic books. And that's how I got my first gig was actually on a comic called Marvel Knights as a flatter. So that's a colorist assistant. And I've been doing it on and off for the last 15 to 20 years, probably now, something like that. So
cool. Incredible. I'm glad to have a bona fide comics expert with us today. This, I guess, sort of for everyone, including myself. What's like, before we get into the discussion of the movie and like, because there's lots to discuss. What's your like sort of relationship to Wonder Woman as a character, the Wonder Woman oeuvre, as Greg put it so eloquently before the start here? Scott, you a big Wonder Woman guy?
I mean, not really. I like some of the Justice League stuff. I definitely enjoyed the first movie quite a lot. But outside of that, I can't really honestly say that I've been a huge follower of Wonder Woman over the years. I was more of a Marvel reader, if I'm honest, too. So
I'm much the same as Scott. Like I didn't read any Wonder Woman comics. Probably the movie, the first Wonder Woman movie, is my biggest touch point with it, to be perfectly honest. And I did enjoy that movie quite a bit. I enjoyed this movie less so, but we'll get into that. Steph?
Let's see. I was very much loved all of the girl power type comics. And like, female superheroes was my big thing. Black Canary and Zatanna might have been more my favorites growing up, but I definitely had a big soft spot for Wonder Woman too, because I know I had like a little tiny Wonder Woman bathing suit when I was 5 years old. There's actual photos of me in it that exist out there.
Some of your earliest cosplay.
That is my first cosplay. Yeah, I use it as a Facebook profile at one point.
Okay, I was like, it's a weird flex, Greg, but if it's on Facebook,
it's okay.
It's all good. Steph and I go way back. I think we've known each other for 20 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been forever. Like, we're way old friends, so it's all good.
Went to the same college program way back in the day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's true too. I forgot about that.
Well, I think my favorite, probably even my favorite DC thing, is the animated Justice League cartoon, the final season of which was called Justice League Unlimited, and that has like some great Wonder Woman moments. Specifically, the one where she like bets Batman that he can't sing, or like he gets turned into a pig. I might be conflating too, but there's one where like Batman gets turned into a pig, and then another one where he sings, and it's all because of Wonder Woman. So I guess I know Wonder Woman tangentially through Batman. But yeah, that's also the first movie would be my biggest exposure. And that first movie kicked ass. It was like tight top to bottom.
Here's the weird thing about Wonder Woman as a comic. Was it really targeted at girls? I don't know that it was.
In the beginning?
Yeah. Like in general, I don't know that it was necessarily targeted at women, which, because you had mentioned that you were into girl power comics. I'm not suggesting she's not a cool and kick-ass role model. Just it made me realize, was Wonder Woman ever really originally marketed to women as readers of comic books or to men as readers of comic books? And I'm willing to bet that's changed. But
keep giving my boys. There's there was a time when it was like comics weren't even for men; they were for boys.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And
I mean, if anyone in the live chat knows, you can certainly start commenting and let us know.
Okay, well, there's a few things I'll add to this then. I know there's a movie about, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's about the creator of Wonder Woman. And he was somewhat a feminist, but also very much into things like female domination. That's Wonder Woman's background.
It's why she's got a lasso. Like, that's my understanding. Like,
yes,
at one point, her secret weakness was that she lost her powers if you tied her up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that actually.
No, that was way early,
in
the Wonder Woman stuff.
So here's something interesting. I think a lot of it too is back in the day there was not so much of a gender divisiveness in comic books kind of thing, because like women and boys and girls were all reading comic books of various kinds, like up until I forget when it switched, maybe in the 60s or so, or after the that whole mess with the Comics Code Authority thing and how comic books are evil and all that stuff. But because the way my mom described comic books, it was just like, oh, it's just another thing that you picked up at the store almost kind of stuff. Now, here's something interesting, though. My mom actually did not like Wonder Woman comic books because she didn't like the art. She's like, oh, no, Superman, Batman's drawn way better. She's like,
that's fair. I looked up a picture of Cheetah earlier. Like I googled Cheetah earlier, and there's like the first appearance of her. She looked like the weirdest, like that O phase with the eyes, and those weird old comics are drawn curiously sometimes. Cool. Well, this flick came out in 2020, even though it's called Wonder Woman 1984. Not even though, it's just fun to call it Wonder Woman 1984 2020. Directed by Patty Jenkins, director of Wonder Woman and Monster. Written by Patty Jenkins, Jeff Johns from DC Comics, and a guy named Dave Callahan did the grunt work by putting it to screenplay. The story by the other two. Of course, stars Gal Gadot as Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, Kristen Wiig as Barbara Minerva, and Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord. Scott, you want to hit us with that trailer, and then we'll get into a little deeper film discussion.
40 years after a man she knew for a few weeks died, Diana Prince Chris pines for him as she works by day at the Smithsonian and also by day as the vigilante hero Wonder Woman. After foiling an antiques robbery, Diana and her nerdy coworker Barbara come into possession of a magic wishing rock. But failed oil magnate Maxwell Lord also wants the magic wishing rock, and he uses his position as a museum donor to get his hands on it. Soon, everyone has their wish. Barbara is as cool and powerful as Diana. Diana has put the ghost of her dead boyfriend in another living human man's body. And Max is Jafar from the end of Aladdin, but without any of the downsides. With Max now granting everyone's wishes, society begins to unravel. And Diana needs to find a way to get everyone to renounce their wish in order to save the world. Also, Barbara is a cheetah now for some reason. This movie is good, but it can be better.
Nice. That should have been the damn intro. I was sweating that intro, and I'm like, it's right there. You get to point. Perfect. This is the whole reason we did it live, just as Scott could point at the camera. Nice.
Beautiful.
The people who tune in for the recording of this won't be able to see that. But
I think they can guess what you did. They could probably put two and two together.
Wonderful. I don't know about your guys' watch experience, but this is the second time I've watched it, and the first time I saw it, I was really frustrated with Max Lord, and I kind of got laser focused on his motivation and like the mechanics of the wishing, and I was kind of angry watching for most of the movie, so I think that contributed to like me not being super plussed about it, because this second time watching it around, I was much more enjoying it. It was I was laughing. There was a lot of good levity in it, which is something that DC movies don't always have, as we know. And I wasn't sweating the particulars of it as much. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a movie we did recently called Signs, which, has lots of like logical problems, but like, overall, it's fine. It's a fine watch. It's not unwatchable. It's a bit long, but it's not unwatchable.
Yeah. It definitely could be trimmed down. That's for sure. And I like this way more than Signs. I'm mostly on board for this movie. This is my first time with it, and pretty much up until he barges into Ronald Reagan's office, I was like on board. Pretty silly and stupid, but it had a certain like levity to it that I appreciated and was happy to show up for. Up until the poster boards behind him was just like, okay, that's like comedically convenient. Like there's contrived plot, conveniences, and then there's literally the thing you need on 3 nice poster boards in a presentation behind you, and a president that is willing to I know I'm getting into notes, but this is literally where I was like, love it, love it, love it, love it. I'm kind of over this movie. The description of what that device does, that satellite does from the president, is just so much like technical jargon, and he's just willing to like announce it to this guy, and the poster boards with it. It was too damn convenient. And this was 10 minutes after a plane turned invisible. Fine with that. That was great. Make the plane invisible. That was kind of stupid.
There's also another convenient moment where they are in Egypt and they just like drive by Max Lord, and they're like, "Holy shit, that's the guy we're after."
There's a lot of that in the movie I found. Where just like, oh, how convenient! Like Cheetah suddenly got 2 wishes. Like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, everyone gets 1 wish until the plot
Barbara.
needs someone to get 2 wishes.
Yeah, because we got to move this plot somewhere. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Well,
haven't
and even
turned
turning
into
the
a
plane
cat yet.
invisible. Even turning the plane invisible is something like, oh, she can turn things invisible now, but she never does it again.
Yeah.
Convenient that she can do it that once.
That one drove me nuts just because like it's such an easy fix to have her like, in the, maybe in the early scenes where she's kind of sad and pining over Chris Pine, pun intended, I guess. Just have her, a quick scene where she's trying to make a coffee cup disappear. At least you can kind of like
I wonder if that got
hint
cut.
at it.
I wonder if that's like they filmed that and then they cut it to make
Totally.
room for a
Her
dressing
power
montage.
only works on planes. That's how it is.
Oh yeah. That
Or
makes
they cut it-
Clearly.
They may have cut it to add an 11-minute cold open that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Maybe they cut it and then someone turned it invisible and they couldn't find it again.
I
Oh,
gotcha. Yeah.
Scott, Stephanie, overall thoughts?
Well, here's I want to reel back even further before the movie starts, before the movie came out online, before the pandemic. It had one of the best marketing campaigns I'd seen in a while for a movie. I was hyped. Like they were using like the Blue Monday music and like all of the super crazy laser 80 colors and all like the that sort of like, I don't know what to call it, but it just had a certain tone to it and it seemed very fun. And then they released the first scene actually where the flashback on Paradise Island when Diana was a child. That whole sequence was fantastic, and like they released that ahead of time too before the movie. And I was like, oh, this is wicked. Like this is gonna be such a good movie. And then you actually get Christmas Day watching the movie, you get that Paradise Island scene again. You're like, oh yeah, I'm so into this. And all of a sudden it's the corniest mall sequence where it's just over the top, like she just carelessly drops the bad guys on the car. Do they survive? Was there someone down there? And it was just like, honestly, so I watched it the first time and it was pretty cringy, that scene for me. And then my second attempt to watch it with my roommates, and they did not last past the mall scene. Like
really?
I think, yeah, it was just like they were done. They were so done at that point and gave up on it. So my second viewing is actually not until like rewatching it now for this podcast kind of thing.
Was it this guy? Was it this guy that made them stop watching, or this guy, the guy who suddenly just decides that he's going to attempt to drop a child off a balcony or threaten to do so? Like that was a weird moment.
That was a very odd moment too. That was like, it's like, what's going on here?
Well, what was his plan there?
I don't know. And it was like weirdly kiddie, and it was okay. So that scene was weird because the tone that was setting up for it was like over the top, kid friendly kind of thing. And now here we are terrorizing children, and it's kind of like, how am I supposed to feel right now? I don't know. Like, what's going on? But I kind of like, I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe they were going for something really cheesy and I'm missing the joke. And I just kind of like blew it off there. But and then we started getting into the movie more, and then I found it interesting because there's a lot of bits I like about the movie, and I absolutely hate how it's all put together in the end, though. And second viewing for me, actually, it was actually made it harder for me to watch, to be honest. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm cringing more this time. Oh, it's like...
I hadn't really thought about that perspective on that particular scene because I'm like, oh, it's in a mall. I bet they shot it in an empty mall no one was using. Like, I was just kind of like on board for it until more hindsight than any point in the movie when you realize that those guys weren't just like desperately robbing an antique store, but they were like trying to get the wish stone, right? Like those were those Maxwell Lord's goons?
It's implied, but it's not explicit.
It'll tie to my fix. That was where, like in hindsight, I'm like, wait a minute, that was a wish stone heist next to like a fountain. Like, yeah. The origin of the wish stone is a problem for me, but that I like that scene until you realize the stakes.
Yeah, just returning to the fights, just really briefly. Elena in chat says she has they have a huge problem with the fights in this movie. None of the moves have any weight or impact, and I don't know if I have a huge problem with it. I think the camera movements were really good, but definitely certain moves did feel really weightless and have little impact. And I'm thinking of the chase scene in Egypt specifically. Even when the scene where Wonder Woman is like running down the highway there, that felt particularly weird and weightless and floaty.
The fight with Cheetah as well at the end is really kind of it's really fakey.
It's
like
it feels fake.
You were able to see that fight because I couldn't see shit in that fight.
It's not easy. Well, and they're clearly trying to hide the fact that it's largely CGI with making it dark, which they did in Venom, they did in Black Panther, and it still looks real fake. It's not a technology that's gotten better. Practical effects are better.
So did you say Black Panther?
Yeah, the fight at the end between Killmonger and T'Challa, where they're
dark.
falling, it's very fake.
Oh, that's fair. I was like, that whole scene, the person I saw that movie with was like, it's a rather nice day for a battle.
Oh no, there's a lot of good in Black Panther. It's just that particular scene.
I'm thinking of the big fight scene where it's in a beautiful sunny African sky.
Them fighting in the mine at the end.
Is dark.
The Amano battle at the end. At the
I think it was almost entirely CG, that fight. So I think that's kind of what made it feel less fun for me. But I guess enough about Black Panther.
Yeah. But the point stands.
A different cat character now.
Yeah, the point stands though. Turning down the lights to hide the bad CGI just makes it so that you can't follow the fight. It's just as bad. It's worse, arguably. I'd rather have a cartoony fight that I can see clearly and follow than something that's like kind of being obscured.
Well, now Wonder Woman is a complete set because the first movie gave us a very bright, overly computer graphic fight that was anticlimactic, and now we have the dark one.
I suppose. in her super Amazon armor that does nothing and gets shredded by Cheetah in an instant.
It looks good in marketing, though. So good.
Yeah, I didn't get that armor because it was supposed to repel like the entire armies of men, right? And then it gets absolutely shredded by, I guess she's an apex predator. Does that mean she's the apex
not an army of men
destroying it? Yeah, I guess.
See Lord of Rings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's got the loophole. She was a lady cat person. Also, this is the second DC superhero now who has fought a cat-related supervillain who was tied to a businessman named Max. Just going to point that out.
Okay, speaking of Max Lord, I want to talk about Keeps and Cuts a little bit because I think the problems with this movie kind of start and stop with Max Lord and his motivations, and of course because he does become the Wishing Stone, and the Wishing Stone itself has problems. Like it really is just like all about that guy, right? Yeah. Like the rules to the Wishing Stone are a little unclear. We talked about how the certain people get 2 wishes, and everyone else gets one.
It was also unclear to me at first why he was announcing what he was taking in return, and then it would just happen. And it didn't dawn on me that that was just him automatically extracting a price until like the third time he did it.
Yeah, the cause and effect of the monkey's paw aspect of the wishing stone isn't immediately apparent. Like, there's a guy in the very beginning who wishes for a cup of coffee when he's in the vicinity of the wishing stone, right? And then he just gets a cup of coffee. But nothing bad happens to him. So we never immediately realize
he spilled a cup of coffee on himself.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been really simple to do that, right? Just show, he gets the coffee, and then at the end of the scene, he spills it all over himself by some sort of weird happenstance.
Part of me, I want to say he does, but I might just not remember this movie very well.
I don't remember it. I mean, I've seen this movie twice and I don't remember that.
Fair.
So
that's probably. I think it's just wish.
If it was done,
it was not
done explicitly enough for my taste. If that's the case, but even so, like both Diana and Cheetah have they both get their wishes slowly over time, and that rule isn't clear either, because like lots of other people just get their wishes immediately. Especially when Pedro Pascal becomes the wishing stone. So it doesn't help that, like, selling the monkey's paw aspect of it, because both the main characters who have already had wishes, and we know we've had wishes that are coming true, aren't experiencing the deleterious effects of it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
We also haven't addressed the weird man ghost in the room yet. Because that's hugely problematic.
There are 3 problematic problems with this movie. So we'll bang them out if you want.
And one of them is Chris Pine inhabiting another human man's body. Not even like a coma patient or something. Like some dude who went to bed one night and then woke up like 3 weeks later not remembering anything that happened because Chris Pine was in his body that whole time. And Wonder Woman had sex with that body. And that is real gross. And later on, the wishing stone makes nukes out of thin air. So why couldn't it have just materialized a fully alive Chris Pine? Why did he need to be in another body?
Yeah.
That does not make sense. It's clearly not the downside of him being brought back, because that's her losing her powers. And it barely comes up as a plot point.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a super easy fix. Why doesn't he just materialize instead? Like, and then we do have that whole problematic aspect of it is gone.
The fix is right in front of their nose. And this is because the fix is so glaringly obvious, I started thinking, like, why did they make this mistake? What was the reasoning behind it? And best I can figure, like Occam's razor, it was like this, plus they didn't think about it any further. They didn't want Chris Pine to just strut into the room, because then she'd be like, oh my God, a ghost, or oh my God, an illusion, or just like, something was up. They wanted that moment where some weirdo is like, I wish I had more time. And then, what? How did you say that? It's like, it's me. Look, me. It's a watch. Me. And have that moment where, like, her and us realize Chris Pine is here. Which I get the, like, wanting to do that. I get that's, like, a nice incentive to create that moment. But it's at the expense of this, like, cookies.
It's
weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very strange decision. And I think you're 100% right that that's exactly the reason why that they wrote it specifically for that moment. And then and you get that nice, I guess you get the nice moment at the end where she gets to see him one more time.
Nice moment.
Where
she has an awkward meet with a man whom she has already seen naked.
Yeah.
I would get that
Who
more
doesn't
looked
remember
at.
any of it.
So one of the other problematic points, and I can't really speak to this, but someone I was talking to pointed out that just like the conflict, the early conflict between Barbara and Diana is a bit of a like women pulling down other women angle, which is not chill, but I probably last guy to share insights on that. Just want to point it out.
Actually, I'll expand on that a little bit. I kind of almost thought the beginning of the movie, it was going to be about privilege more. And that would be kind of the theme around things like privilege and entitlement. sort of like where Barbara comes from, this background where she's feel like everything in the world is like stacked up against her, and Diana has everything super easy handed to her. Like that's kind of like I thought we were going to go with this, and early on I actually thought exactly that's probably where we're going to go with this too, because we have Max Lord, the smarmy supposed billionaire or whatever thing coming in too on top of it. But in the end, it became more of a story about people like cheating to get what they want and losing things that they value is kind of what it was. And somehow that was so much less interesting the way it developed. I don't know.
It ended up being about greed, which was weird because the movie wanted to make a big to-do about truth. And the question that I asked Liam and Scott in our pregame chat was, are wishes lies? Because like if I had cancer and then I wished not to have cancer, is that a lie? Like it's a weird connection to
do with the fact that it like which god made this. It was some kind of like trickster god or something.
Yeah,
like it was a god who wanted to fuck with you and wasn't actually trying to was trying to coax greed and shittiness out of people, not actually like.
The movie does definitely presuppose, though, that everyone in the world is making a selfish wish, and that absolutely no one would wish for like a family member to recover from an illness or to feed their children or something like that. Like they're all going to make some terrible destructive wish, and society is going to unravel. And that's a really cynical view of humanity.
It's the Steve Martin Christmas wish sketch in just writ large.
But okay, so you have that cynical view, but all of a sudden everybody got together to save the world by giving up their very selfish wish, and I really honestly had a hard time buying into that.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, everybody actually saved the world by like giving up their selfish wish.
And there's a fix for that too, because you could have Maxwell Lord be the linchpin for it all, and when he renounces his wish, every wish goes away. That would have been an easy fix.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there he is.
Very silly. The wind that has no point. I do want to say when Stephanie was talking a moment ago, I made like an O face because I had a weird revelation. Do you think because this movie like tried to start off with a theme of like cheating is wrong? Do you think that was the theme they chose because they couldn't call her Cheetah?
Oh no!
Why are you doing this on our live show, Leah?
Oh my gosh!
What if she's not a cheetah? So yeah, the third problematic part I had with this movie, just a perfect segue. The whole scene where he gives the first like Middle Eastern prince a wish. And the guy wishes for all of the people who aren't from his homeland to be gone and out, and for his homeland to be his homeland and have total control of it. I feel like is a conversation you should not be having in a movie where your star is part of the IDF or was served in the IDF. Like it just was like, just avoid that altogether. Like the fact that Gal Gadot like won't say the word Palestine is maybe don't do like it's something like the next movie Kevin Spacey is in. It should not be about like an inappropriate gay relationship. Just avoid it. You know what I mean? Like, why was that a choice?
I think this movie was filmed before all that happened. So
Israel and Palestine's been a conflict for
but before it blew up around her. Because I'm pretty sure that came up.
This has been criticism of her from day one.
Really?
Yeah,
maybe I just hadn't heard it.
Yeah, I think, as I recall, I don't remember what it was, but she said some really questionable things about Palestine in the run-up to Wonder Woman 84. So yeah, it definitely put, and of course she was part of their army too. It definitely put that in people's heads, and that. And though the scene, with this gentleman that we're talking about on screen here in Egypt, like that's what set everyone off. Set off their alarm bells.
So yeah, I have a fix for it when we get to that part of it. But yeah, I'm not even trying to come like we're not the podcast to break down the Israel-Palestine conflict. However you feel about it, I'm just saying maybe avoid it. Maybe it's not superhero movie conversation.
Yeah, I think that the wall specifically, I think, was the
Yeah.
thing that really
Like-
really cheesed people off. And then like I get it. I mean, I'm not particularly versed in that saga world event either, so I don't want to speak to it too much. But yeah, I do understand why that became a little bit problematic for people, for sure.
So what did y'all like about this movie?
Actually, you know what, we were talking. The intro is great. I actually like that cartoony. You know, it did feel 80s. It felt like a kind of like an 80s movie and a callback to the original like Wonder Woman TV show and stuff like that. You know, it was nice to see Wonder Woman bright and in color. You know, even the past Wonder Woman was pretty dark, and I get that because it is a World War I movie after all, and it's you know, the subject matter sort of warrants more muted colors just to, you know, match the scene. But this is you know, I love seeing the Wonder Woman costume bright, and just the whip was awesome. Like it looked cool every time she took it out, and I love the effects of it. I really love the whipping of the lightning, although I wish it was more of a dramatic moment when she does it. It's more like when she does it in the movie, like when you saw it in the trailer, you're like, holy shit, that's amazing. And then when she does it in the movie, it was like she was just doing a U-turn to go back home. And I'm like, well, that's a little less exciting. It's just like, oh, I forgot my armor at home. I got to go get it. That's what I liked. No one else?
Oh,
I liked all of the performances. I didn't necessarily like the way the characters were written or some of the character arcs, but I think that in particular, I think that Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal are both good in this movie. Mm-hmm. I don't want to suggest that they're not by any stretch. It's just, again, their characters are a little muddled. The movie has a lot of good ideas. It's just the execution is really poor, and it doesn't settle on one idea. It is kind of just like all over the place, and that's not helping it. But some of the ideas it's toying with are neat and are different things than a superhero movie generally does. I like that Diana in both films she's had drag out fights with bad guys, but in the end, it's not hitting the bad guy the hardest that wins her the day. In the first movie, it's like making a plea for humanity's ability to love. In this one, it's her making a plea for humanity's ability to be honest. That like she inspires people to be better. I kind of like that as a better through line than I punched Red Skull so hard he flew into space and disappeared for 6 movies. We've seen that a lot. It's nice to see something different. I don't know that it was executed perfectly, but I like that they're at least trying to do something different with her, and that is good. I liked the cameo. The cameo was sweet.
I have to agree with almost everything Scott just said. Like, I did super appreciate that it wasn't just the typical another boring and villain dies. That's it. Move on to the next guy. Kind of ending that all the Marvel movies and most of the DC movies have been suffering from for the last while here. So that was definitely refreshing. I know we're talking about the good stuff. So I'm gonna like highlight Cheetah a little more. I thought, like, especially in the first act, I thought Kristen Wiig was like just phenomenal. And even though I'm obviously not a fan of the Cheetah special effect, I wish they had more Cheetah, because I just felt like I almost felt like they had 2 villains going, and it was like too crowded. And then we dropped off on the Cheetah character development. So in the end, it was just kind of like, we remember to put her back in the movie here and have her have another scene here.
Yeah.
Kind of feeling.
And this might be tiptoeing into change territory, but this just dawned on me. It might have been interesting to, and I bear with me because this delves into moving into a second part, but it might have been interesting to have Kristen Wiig get her hands on the Wishing Stone in this movie, and for her to be the main villain, and have Max just in the background, and then at the end of the movie have him get the Wishing Stone and be like, now, and maybe even have learned about its power from being in the background in this movie, and then set him up for the next movie to be the big villain.
Potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
But again, that tiptoes into sequel territory. Sorry,
Scott. I was just thinking as Stephanie was mentioning more Cheetah, like a way to get Cheetah into it maybe a little bit more would be to have her wish off the bat be, I want to be an apex predator, because there's an opportunity to do that, because she does get attacked and accosted. And she's in a vulnerable place, and perhaps she could, instead of having made her wish right off the top, she could go back to her office to sort of recover a little bit and then make that wish. And you can still play out slowly if that's what you wanted to do, but then you can you don't have to, you've already introduced in the audience mind that yes, there's a cheetah, there's an apex predator sort of call out there, and that I get why she's suddenly turning into cheetah. She's got fur or whatever.
I know we've made it because we've got a spammer in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Hi, spammer.
I'll just my thought. I agree with everything Scott said. I like the ideas of Traffic Sin and the tone. It reminded me of I don't know if 70s or 80s, but the first Superman movies. It had that kind of it's a fun thing we're doing here. It doesn't have to be ironically fun. It doesn't have to be dark and gritty to be. It's just gonna be a fun thing, like Power Rangers energy. So that's I like the tone and the ideas. But yeah, we have that spammer there, and we're gonna just try to beat them at their own game because we also have sponsors. We have our own ads to hawk. So we are going to we got some messages from the folks at the Alberta Podcast Network, and then we'll go into our fixes and changes, bona fide notes. I know Scott, we didn't discuss this ahead of time, but I'm doing the first one. You're doing the second one.
Okay, I've just been told that I am reading an ad.
This isn't news to you. Speaking of news, this episode is brought to you by Taproot Edmonton, which publishes curiosity-driven stories, topical newsletters, and locally focused podcasts, all in the service of informing Edmontonians about their community. You want to start your day informed? Sure you do. I do. I don't want to wake up every morning just an ignorant buffoon. I want to start my day informed. So I'm going to check out, and so should you, check out The Pulse, Taproot's new daily news briefing. The Pulse tells you what you need to know about Edmonton every weekday morning. You'll get short, informative updates about what's happening at City Hall, plus coverage of business, tech, food, the arts, and more. You'll also get a bit of whimsy. Some whimsy to go with my informed morning. Perfect. You'll also get a bit of whimsy from features such as A Moment in History, Chart of the Week, and the Friday Podcast Pick. And it's free. That's the best part. It's free. So sign up today at taprootedmonton.ca/pulse. That's taprootedmonton.ca/pulse.
With Pod Power, our sponsors are making it possible for us to amplify the voices of Albertans and Alberta podcasters. This episode of I Have Some Notes, I just about said the read-along, is
And you did.
the Edmonton Community Foundation is helping us give a Pod Power shout-out to Overdue Finds, an Edmonton Public Library podcast. Bryce Crittenden and Carolyn Land host conversations about books, movies, music, pop culture, and other interesting news about Edmonton. It's a great way to learn more about what's happening at EPL and about how you can use your library card to access all of EPL's in-person and online services. To listen and find out more about Overdue Finds, head to epl.ca/podcast. Just a little EPL note, actually. If you have a library card, there's an online streaming service called Canopy, which you can access for free. You get 10 credits a month. They have a great selection of movies, especially classic movies. I cannot recommend it enough. If you're a movie fan, and I'm assuming you are because you're tuned into our show, you should definitely check it out. So a little free plug there. You can get free access to Canopy through the Edmonton Public Library right now.
Scott's in the pocket of Big Library. Don't listen to him.
I'm in the pocket of Big Library. Absolutely.
So what do we have for fixes for Wonder Woman 84?
Just a quick note for the chat. Like, if you want to start shouting out your fixes for the Wonder Woman, just start throwing them out there, and we'll get to them as you put them out.
Well, I'd like to start because I, much like you, really was on board for most of this movie, except for the weird parts they should have thought way more about that they don't need our notes for. Like, they're just more hindsight and a slap upside the head for some of those. But for bona fide like story notes, I really had a problem with like the origin of the Wish Stone, from the fact that a bunch of buffoons in a mall try to steal it from an antique store to the fact that it's just rolling around on her desk. Like either it's FBI evidence or it's not, you know, like it is handled with no gravitas until Max Lord gets his hands on it. So I would have liked it just treated with like a little more reverence. Or like Scott was saying, have Maxwell learn about it over the course of this movie to set up a second one. But the fact that they're fighting over a paperweight, it seemed really strange to me. But moreover, Maxwell as his whole Max. I think the character in the comics is Maxwell Lord, but I think they call him Max through the whole movie. His whole thing is like, I get that he wants to become the Wish Stone, and so he can hand it out. That makes more sense than what I initially thought was like he's going to get the stone and just wish for there to be oil on the land he bought that was bad. That was my assumption. And then he's like, I won't be the Wish Stone. Great, cool. To get rid of the weird Palestine part that I was talking about, I think the first wish that his investor friend, who like back instead of being like, fuck you, I'm going to get you, it's like, buddy, just hold this and wish for there to be oil on or hold my hand, because he's turned himself into the Wish Stone, and wish there to be oil on the land we bought. Ding, 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 ding. Great. This guy gets it. Then he starts going around. He starts taking other people's land. He's just going to control all land the way, like, kind of like Gene Hackman in the Superman movie wants to do.
I was going to say.
I want to throw back to as much of the Christopher Reeve Superman as I can, because that's classic.
Well, and also like
I
80s
think this movie
movies.
tried to do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was talking to another friend of mine who saw it, and yeah, they were very much like, oh no, this movie definitely does a lot of throwbacks. And when he said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Jeff Johns is a huge like Donner Superman guy, right? So that's where this all comes from.
So just to bring my thought all home, because it's all just the one pass on his motivations. The thing with his son hating him, like he's worried his son is going to hate him. They need to amp that up more and more often. So every time he gives somebody a wish, his son, and therefore gets his wishes, essentially, like gets him more power, his son should just be like much more distant, and that relationship needs to wither more quickly and more severely than it does. And I don't think he needs to just cut the whole thing with the satellite. He doesn't need to give everybody wishes. He just needs to give like too many people wishes, whether that's a dozen, whether that's 20. And then they come back to him like, what have you done to us? You curse of the monkey paw fucked us. And now we're going to be pissed at you. And that's him and Wonder Woman's big moment at the end, isn't convincing everybody in the world to give up their wish. Just these like other assholes who he tricked, power hungry idiots who he tricked to give up their greed.
That actually is interesting, because I had asked in the chat after I watched the movie, is this canonical Snyderverse? Because if it is, it's weird that no one ever once mentioned at that time that a man went on television around the world, granted everyone wishes, and the world nearly ended. And that superheroes are apparently super hush-hush after that. Like, really? Because that happened in the 80s. Does nobody remember when that happened?
Everyone had Wonder Woman beamed into their mind. They all know who Wonder Woman is.
So she shouldn't exactly be a surprise when she shows up to fight Doomsday. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I think that your tweaks to Max Lord are good. I think with his son, I love the idea of like the wishes running back on the son, where he keeps hating his father more and more. And I think it'd be really interesting to have to not have Maxwell Lord be like a total absent father the way that he is. Like he seems to be just bothered by his son mostly throughout the movie. I think it would be better motivation for him to be desperately trying to do right by him, but he's ignoring his son because of it. Like he's so fixated on trying to provide for him, and he gets seduced by the greed. And I don't think he should know about the stone at all. Like he should just happen upon it the way that everybody else does. And he just kind of thinks like, well, if you wish, like I would just wish for all the wishes, that kind of thing, or something like that. So, but that would allow his character to be much more sympathetic, and that as he's granting people's wishes, he's becoming more and more seduced by the stone, and then he keeps paying for it more and more the more he does it. So it makes more sense at the end when he has a mea culpa, right? And or a change of heart, that he recognizes that his son is more important to him than all the success in the world and stuff, and then he gives it up. Because as written right now, it doesn't really grok that he cares that much about his son that he gives it all
It's
up.
very implied. Everything you said is
there's a script writing mechanic, I want to say. Well, that and it's not just script, for narrative fiction, that part of the way you get a good character is by having them pulled between their wants and their needs. And it's interesting because you've got it built into this movie, but you don't really exploit it. And you guys are kind of talking about that here. Max wants the power of the stone, needs the relationship with his son. And by further going after his want, he's getting farther and farther away from what he needs. And that could be tied into Cheetah and Diana as well, with their wishes, that their wants are interfering with their needs. But again, the movie doesn't go far enough with that, and it could. And that would be more interesting, and it would be a more interesting theme. Mm-hmm. Like, what you think you want isn't necessarily what you need. Cheetah wanting to be an apex predator, wanting to be a sexy, powerful, self-empowered woman is necessarily what she needs. And Diana wanting her boyfriend, who she knew for a couple weeks back, 40 years ago, back to life, is what she wants, but isn't necessarily what she needs. And part of the journey is, especially for Diana, 'cause she's our hero and she needs to self-actualize before the villains, is her realizing, oh, this isn't what I need. And I need to let go of this desire in order to get what I need, and in order to help lead other people to realize that. And I think that maybe that's like a fundamental thematic fix for this movie. And I think you guys hit upon it while talking about fixing Maxwell Lord's motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think that's a very fine-tuned way that they should have approached the movie, because the movie was more like, instead of doing the want and need, it was more like you have a wish, which should be the want, right? But then you're cheating. Like, your wish is cheating to get this want, and then you're losing something that you value, kind of thing. But I think if it was the more direct want versus need, I think that would strike home with a much more powerful message.
It even ties into the cold open, because she wants to win the relay race, or it's not a relay race. She wants to win the race. She needs to grow from it, and now you've thematically tied that in with the rest of the movie.
And I'm sure someone who wrote this movie thinks that's all there, but like it got lost in the editing somewhere, or in the like too much time, in Invisible Plane. Like it all seems very like the lightest of implied. Everything we're discussing is like just they just dabble in it. They're just like, wouldn't maybe this I did. So.
Interesting suggestion coming in from Lena. What if when the son wished for his dad to be there, it traps Max? Which I think that's actually kind of a really interesting idea. Like, it could be something that Wonder Woman could use against Max, if possible. I know that, like, in the climax as written, they're kind of separated, but you can bring that all together. I don't really like the whole satellite thing, and I like your fix, Liam, where we basically nix all that anyway. It's
12, a dozen land-owning people from around the world, a bunch of his assistants, and a couple joke characters from the beginning all come like almost zombified, crawling back to be like, what have you given us? Like, he's the monkey paw dealer. So they all come at one, and then it's the same thing, but it's not everybody on Earth. Speaking of Lena's comment here, I actually thought even that might have been where they were going, because at one point the kid touches the knee and wishes that my greatness was his greatness, And I'm like, oh, is the kid the stone now? Is that the rub? And there's no, that I don't understand if that ever came back up. Like,
Yeah.
But I almost felt like the kid, they almost didn't know what to do with the kid. We have this kid, and obviously we need Max to play off this idea of this kid because the kid will save Max, basically. But it just, the whole time, it just felt like, well, we don't know what to do with him, so he's just off to the side till like, oh, we need you for a scene kind of thing.
It's speaking of contrivances, it's also weird at the end that he catches a ride back on the presidential helicopter he no longer has any authority over to the exact place where his son happens to be lurking in the bushes.
just run out of the woods.
Yeah, like
a lot of convenience in this.
it's real convenient. Also, we get no closure with Barbara. She's just, we see her like on a cliff, human again, and it's just like, what happened there? What happens to them? What happens to the bad guys?
Yeah.
Tune in next time.
Yeah, like we get a crumb of closure with Maxwell Lord. We get nothing for Barbara except that she's not a cheetah anymore.
Yeah.
Or we think she's not a cheetah anymore.
Is that just if we're to presume she gave up her wish too? She learned the errors of her way after being electrocuted.
I thought
Maybe.
she died. Like, that was my read of it when it first happened. I was like, oh, goodbye.
Yeah.
You were electrocuted to death. That particular scene bugged me logic wise too, because like Diana was also in the water. Like, they're both underwater, and then she pushes her towards like a broken electrical cord. But like, why? It's a conductor. Why isn't Diana also being fried?
Oh, because she's Wonder Woman.
She's immune to lightning, I guess.
But like,
Same way she ran
down.
down the highway.
That makes no sense because her first wish was to be like Diana, so like she's presumably got all the same powers, right? Yeah.
Oh, can she turn things invisible once?
This is unraveling. We almost got it all into a nice little fix. Then it's just unraveling.
It just comes right back apart.
Oh no.
This movie is a donaire.
One small
want it to be good. It seems like a good idea.
I read somewhere that the Warner Brothers had actually asked Patty Jenkins to remove one of the two opens to this movie, like either keep the scene in Themyscira or the mall scene, and she refused because that's the kind of clout you have after, I guess, you do a huge, super successful superhero movie. She just was like, nope. But I think the studio was actually right on that. Yeah. I think that was the right call. I think either you truncate that scene to something very short and tight, where it's just a quick lesson about Diana, or a quick scene about Diana's greed or inability to let go of something. And then you move right to the mall scene. You don't need it. Didn't need to be 12 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, I want to use that as a fix. Like I said, my problem with the stone is that it's like it falls into this antique store in a mall. Cut the mall scene altogether, fun as it is, and you just have the bad guys getting the stone, and somehow and then like the FBI catch him. Somehow it still makes its way to Barbara, but then you can actually have like a cool heist scene instead of this bumbling mall nonsense.
You have the Smithsonian Museum right there for a heist. Just have it be in the Smithsonian. It could have just been there, and they just didn't know what they had because it's just they thought it was a fake. Yeah. So it's just in storage somewhere, but you had it at the Smithsonian. You could have had the heist at the Smithsonian, which would have been a great set piece for a heist because it's the Smithsonian.
And then it's not even like cool goons like running in to steal it. Max still makes his donation, and in his donation, credibility, like steals it in that moment. Like he uses the fact that he's a donor to this thing to steal it himself. I guess then,
he could use that moment to sort of like case the joint. I guess
case it. That's better because how does what's her name touch it first? Diana.
So you guys opened up the new issue here because the whole point of WW84 is it's 1984 and we need to have the mall because that's the embodiment of the 80s.
Yeah.
So the Smithsonian should move into the mall, have a kiosk.
That's kind of what it was.
Where could we put a mall? Where else in the movie does a mall go?
Palestine. Cut out Palestine. It's
Yeah.
a mall instead.
I mean, you could have a set piece with Cheetah at the mall. You don't have to have Diana involved in it. When she starts coming into her own, there's no reason that the dude who accosts her couldn't have accosted her at the mall. And then she beats up a bunch of like him and his buddies at the mall, and like wows a bunch of people and feels really powerful, and like starts getting her delusions of grandeur after that. Like you just switch the person who's in the mall.
Yeah, that's actually great.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's
That's
more
true.
to
That's
do
true.
too.
And then we also address mall pickup artists.
Yeah.
with
That
the
person
Fidelis.
harassing her shouldn't have been out. That guy shouldn't have been outside the Smithsonian. You know those creeps who hang outside the Smithsonian
Yeah.
and harass women. Put that guy in a mall and then just have her scene hole happen in a mall. Great, nailed it.
You could have Diana there and be surprised that this is happening, especially when
Lena
she's
just
there with
commented
her fully corporeal
corporeal
Chris Pine,
boyfriend having a shopping montage.
who's
which he
not
needs to
possessing.
have because
Yes,
he just got here and he's
and
totally
is not
naked.
possessing another man and stealing his clothes. Exactly. Yeah.
Totally.
Lena in chat says we also need to have an 80s shopping montage.
100% yes.
Oh, yes.
Barbara and Diana take him to the mall, and there's the montage,
Oh,
and
beautiful,
then the
yeah.
pickup artists
Oh,
go after
yes.
Barbara, and she beats them up.
She fucks
Boom.
off to Orange Julius. They go off to do their thing, and it's
Exactly.
when they part
Oh,
ways
yes.
that chaos happens. And maybe that's when she turns into a cheetah earlier, and Diana's like, "Where did Barbara go? And who's that cheetah?" Sweet.
I like that. I guess we should get further into listener comments. We've got a couple that have been saved for us.
Indeed.
Nathan Martin has actually made it into chat. Hello, Nathan. He's got a comment in the show notes there. Liam, if you want to read it.
Yeah, in classic I have some notes style. We're gonna read the listener comments. Nathan Martin says, I felt like this movie was two movies at once. Everything with Wishstone guy is one movie and Wonder Woman is another movie. This movie has some really fun sequences in it, but it's a movie without any rules at all. I think that's true.
You came in a little late, Nathan. We had already talked about that.
The characters in this movie can do, or in some cases cannot do, things simply because the plot needs them to. I would go into a ton of fixes, but I'm sure you find people will do that on the show. Oh, thanks, Nathan. I had fun with some parts of the movie, but in the end, I think they just needed one villain for Diana that would complete whatever the theme of the film was trying to do.
We touched on that. I had suggested maybe using Cheetah as the main villain in this one and pushing Maxwell Lord to the background to set up for another movie. But I think we've kind of started to figure out a way that it could work.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm still not certain in our fixed movie how we get Barbara and Max together in the end, except maybe just that Barbara doesn't want the wishes to go away because she's super powerful now and really self-confident and has what she wants, if not what she needs.
Yeah, maybe
Themes.
maybe she's in earshot when Wonder Woman and Chris Pine are like, "We got to stop this Maxwell Lord guy. If we can get him to reverse his wish, all the wishes will go." And she goes, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." And then goes and seduces him with her sexy cat powers.
Her sexy cat body.
Instead of him taking advantage of her.
He sees her walk in and he's like the dean in Community, where he's like, "Oh, this is awakening something in me."
Oh no. Oh. I feel like we could almost cross over in that horrible Cats movie now.
Yeah, I wonder, like, if that last fight scene was more brightly lit, if it would have looked more like Cats. It may have done.
In the end, maybe just in like, because we were wondering, like, we don't get any closure. She just becomes the Jellicle cat and goes off into space.
So here's a very easy fix. Stop using CGI for cat people. Just
Yeah.
just stop
Just,
it.
yeah, just give them a couple bunny ears or
Let's
cat
just
ears, like a
bring
little,
back
like
Michelle
And a little
Pfeiffer, yeah.
tail.
yeah. There you go.
We're done.
I'm a kitty cat.
I mean, it would have been interesting in the 80s mall montage to have her like pick out a cheetah print outfit while they're all out shopping.
Mm.
And then like that's the first her as the cheetah, and then as she like starts self-identifying as that more, maybe the wish starts to transform her into it, so that by the end she is a cat person.
Yeah.
Like a little transitionary period there might have been neat. I don't know, she's kind of wearing a cheetah skin
And I think she
jacket
buys
for a
cheetah
while,
print.
but
Doesn't she buy like cheetah print high heels? Isn't that the
something like that, yeah.
The
But
brand?
I think they
vaguely
could have gone
remember
far.
that.
tying it into the 80s mall montage. That's all I'm doing here.
And they could have clearly made her a cat lady at home too, but just to add to it,
Yeah.
that would have helped.
Yeah, she feeds it wet food, and she's like, "Look at you, you little apex predator." Just a little foreshadowing. This movie had a lot of conveniences and zero foreshadowing, and a lot of those conveniences wouldn't become conveniences if they just like made it. Hey, later we're gonna make something go invisible. Just don't you worry. Look, we did it here. Oh, the cat lady's got a cat. Like, just tease those out a little more instead of just being like, "Oh yeah, there's gassed up planes outside the Smithsonian ready to go for any World War I fighter pilot to boot up and take."
Yeah. And I mean, he definitely knows how to fly a modern plane.
Yeah.
Because they're exactly the same as World War I planes.
47% more lasso contrivances, says Lena. Perfect.
Nathan actually points out she didn't need to turn into a Catwoman. She could have just been dressed as a...
Yeah, that would have been fine. I mean, they play fast and loose with a lot of the comic origins anyway when they get to the movies. So, yeah, whatever is more convenient, it makes more sense for the plot. I think you're right, Scott. That would have been an easy fix. She doesn't need to be a kitty.
Literally back to what I was said. Just drop the CG thing. Just get her ears and a tail. We're good.
Aaron says the Cats musical opened in 1981, so it was completely time appropriate.
She could have went. They could have went on to Cats. Oh my gosh!
Lane also comments, it was established in the movie. You just have to believe in yourself, and then you can fly. So, which I also was like, okay, yeah, we're doing. I mean, I guess if the invisibility thing, if you can will yourself into invisibility, you can will yourself into flight. But did she fly in the Snyder movies? I don't recall. Like in Zack Snyder's The Justice League or just the Justice League, in either of them, was she tearing ass around the sky with Superman? Did she forget how to do that in the 90s? Like, I don't.
You think someone in chat remembers? Hello.
Can someone in the chat please remind me of whether or not she flew in the Snyder movie?
Sorry, we're all distracted.
I
with the
don't
Martha.
remember, and I don't think that. Yeah, I can't recall. You would have think in that 4 hours of Justice League, we would have seen her fly at least once, right?
Is it just one of those things where it's like, because sometimes flying characters, it's just a matter of them entering frame from above instead of the side. Like,
yeah, I hated that flying scene so much. I just like how the fakey, the flight and like her trying out all the poses. Like it went on way too long, and it just felt far too lame. I was again, loved the lightning whip. That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, Spider-Man on lightning is just weirdly more believable than flight for flight's sake. But that's again so I was going to comment this at the beginning and we got carried away, and just while we wait for Scott to rejoin us here, hopefully I'll wax a little on the nature of DC versus Marvel. And the one thing I try to go into DC movies with is like a little grain of salt, because the characters from the Marvel universe were made in the 60s or later by a genius named Stan Lee. And some of the DC characters from Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman down the whole Justice League were made by people like in the 30s, and there's like way more baggage and are way sillier. And so like having either you just forget that she has an invisible jet, or that he's like got Crypto the super dog, or any of the like very dumb, that's why there's no Batman movie where he's got a giant penny, right? Like it's just not, it doesn't translate to film. And so I try not to hold the DC movies to too high a standard, because the source material they have to work with is way dumber. Like, so I begrudge them not for like trying to shoehorn in a flying jet.
I will say though that the Wonder Woman comics in the 80s by George Perez, those were really top notch. And I think if they pulled more stories and just concepts from there and just went with it, I think it would have been like definitely a more solid movie, they're just like better source materials, because basically after Crisis happened, Wonder Woman's completely rewritten. So there's a perfect launching point to have like modernized Wonder Woman, you know. And
you don't have to shoehorn any 80s stuff in, because the whole thing's already set in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. What made the what did they reboot after Crisis Crisis on Infinite Earths for those that don't.
I'm trying to remember now what was the differences. I think they changed it so she could fly, and they ditched the invisible plane in the 80s, actually. And then that's when Ares became like one of her main adversaries, much more so. But that was like way more badass, like, than the way they portrayed it in the first movie, I would say. Like, he wasn't just some like random English dude. I was like, oh, by the way, I'm the god of war, that kind of thing.
I just had a blackout.
Sorry. Well, that's exciting.
The whole shebang went down. Cool. Well, you're just in time to wrap it up.
Okay, but real quick, something else they did in the 80s with Wonder Woman. Yeah, she can kill. And that's where a lot of her really like started carrying around like the shield and the axe and like the battle armor. A lot of that started coming from them.
So she became kind of much more vigilante-ish, I guess.
Well, the more warrior Amazon-y kind of thing. Oh no, blackout again! Oh shoot, we should have.
It's called a rolling blackout. Just around the block, though.
Of course, during the live show.
Yeah, like I thought she was just gonna kill when she's like, "I'm sorry, I have to do this." I'm like, "Damn, is she gonna kill Kristen Wiig?" And then no.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Yeah. In the 80s, you can throw her tiara and it lobs people's heads off.
Wowzers!
Yeah. We don't see that yet, but the Snyderverse.
I did not know that about Wonder Woman at all. I did not know that it got that dark. That's incredible.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she went into like the deepest pits of Hades and stuff like that, or whatever. Yeah, it was like.
I may need to pick up some Wonder Woman comic books now, I guess.
Thank you for vamping for the crowd while I was waiting for my computer and internet to reset because we had a weird brownout while we're doing the live show.
We kept it going. We just talked about Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Didn't even miss me.
When I reach back, I'm like, my copy of Crisis on Infinite Earths is like just this far out of reach if I want to keep my headphones on.
Oh, nice. Yeah. But Wonder Woman's barely in Crisis. Everything that happens with her is after Crisis, pretty much.
I just love the way George Perez draws the end of the world. It's just a white void coming for the horizon.
Yeah, it's so gorgeous.
When I see Overcast Days, that's what it makes me think of.
Well, you can think of it this way: when you pick up Wonder Woman, it's a direct sequel of Crisis because it's still George Perez keeps going.
Yeah. Sweet.
Speaking of the horizon, we should wrap her up, eh?
Indeed, yes. Now Scott's back, and we're talking Horizon. So this
is
nighttime
now.
Yeah, we watched it literally. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us while the sun set. You got to watch us in the sunset, and it was just a perfect combination.
What a beautiful night!
Please tell us. Tell us more about where we can find you on the internet and the real world.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so first of all, we mentioned earlier FoamArmory.com. That's my foam armor website. That went crazy viral all of a sudden, and we'll be hopefully we'll be able to attend cons, assuming things open up as normal. We don't know yet. We'll see how things go with this Delta variant and things. You can also find my comics blog that I actually didn't mention earlier, and I should have. It's called Smash Pages, or smashpages.net, and we just kind of talk about new comic things coming out, and there's a little bit like discussion and reviews and things like that. I'm one of the founders and administrators there, and where else am I? Just if you look up my name, Stephanie Chan, it's super common, but I own most of the handles, at least on Twitter and Instagram. So there you go.
So at Stephanie Chan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I have a total blast, and it's just so nice. Yeah, and I haven't me and Greg have been friends for a couple of decades now, and it's just so nice to just chill out and geek out together too.
Incredible. And thank you everyone in chat for chilling out and geeking out with us in the chat. It wouldn't be a live show without you. It would just be a very circuitous way to record an episode. So if you haven't already, please follow us on social media. Give us a review on all those places you get your podcast. This will, I believe, be up as a podcast at some point. Subscribe whenever it asks you to subscribe to us and to other things, but mostly us at I Have Some Notes on all the social media places.
Yeah, we are a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, and we are fellow members with a lot of great podcasts. You know who wasn't a really good dad in this movie? Maxwell Lord. You want to know what he might have been able to learn from? The Modern Manhood podcast, where Herman Villegas interviews guests who offer varied perspectives on modern manhood and masculinity in general. And you can check that out along with all of the other member podcasts right now, albertapodcastnetwork.com. And
season's over. This is the end of season 6, and it's easily been the longest season we've had. And thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This has been awesome. This went way better than I was ever hoping for. So thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for listening throughout the last year. I know it's been a tough one for everyone, and we're glad to have provided everybody with a little bit of escapism every couple of weeks. So we hope that it helped, and thank you for providing us with that escapism by commenting and sharing your thoughts about movies with us. It's just awesome. So thank you so much.
For those of you who are in the chat, you can stick around after we're done, because we will do a little Q&A with you if you want to stick around and ask us questions. That includes, I assume I'm speaking for Stephanie. If you have questions for her, she'd be happy to answer them too. And that will be just for you for tuning in tonight. Everybody who tunes into the podcast does not get that.
This is where it ends. Goodbye,
Yes.
good night. Next on the old listening app. Greg?
So
Until then, I have been your... Yes, I got to say goodbye to me. Until then, I've been your host, Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
I'm Gregg Beever. Keep watching the skies. Yay. Yeah, again, thanks for everybody for tuning in. We can sit here and bullshit about movies for 15, 20 minutes if you like. If you have any questions in the chat, just throw them out to us. I don't know, what have you guys been watching this past week? Because I think I've been just watching Wonder Woman, and that's pretty much it. Like, I just watching Wonder Woman, watching reviews about Wonder Woman to prepare myself for Wonder Woman. So it's been pretty much all WW for like the last week.
Oh, well, I did a redive into the 80s because I watched Masters of the Universe.
Oh, nice.
The remake, yes, or not the remake. I don't know what it's
Kevin
called.
Smith
Like the
one.
continuation. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I really liked it.
I watched the first episode, and it was pretty decent. I think did you watch the new Transformers at all? Like that computer animated hardcore Transformers that they put on Netflix. It reminded me of that. Yeah, it reminded me of that, but just like slightly better written. Like the Transformer one's kind of like pretty dour and not a lot of fun, but it's cool to see all the Transformers again. But yeah, it was neat. I heard there's some controversy about it just because of how.
The more I start to hear about this stuff, the more I'm like, I don't even want to talk about the controversy because it's just loud nerds on the internet.
Fair enough.
It's people who want instant gratification. Yeah. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
If we talk about how many people want to hear, like too not enough He-Man, too much. I don't know the character. What's the character's name?
Tila.
Or the characters in Star Wars, too much Rose in Star Wars, that kind of thing. If we talk about how there's people mad about it, it makes it sound like there are more than there are, and I think they are a minority. So
it's a small but vocal minority.
There's
hardcore nerds.
Yeah, I haven't seen the He-Man show, but I gotta believe there's more to talk about it than the few nerds who are mad at Kevin Smith for putting Tila in the first 5 seasons or 5 episodes.
I mean, yeah, it's really well drawn and animated. Like it's and it's really faithful to the look of the original show while also still making it look very modern, which I think was pretty impressive. The first episode starts with a bunch of like sort of paintings as sort of like an animatic of like the history of Eternia, and all those look exactly like the drawings that used to be on the boxes of He-Man. And I thought that was really cool. So there's lots of good nostalgia there if you're a kid that grew up with He-Man.
Well, I have lots of notes on He-Man.
Oh yeah,
that way. I don't know if we want to do a He-Man now, but has anyone said anything in chat yet?
Yeah,
Not
any
yet.
questions for us? Well, if not, we'll just keep.
I've been continuing to catch up on movies that I have no business not having seen yet. And in the last week, in addition to Wonder Woman, I have watched Bringing Up Baby, Gosford Park, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So all of which were excellent movies, except for Wonder Woman, which I watched on Monday. That was not an excellent movie. So highly recommend all of them. Bringing Up Baby is an older film. It's Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant, and they are delight. It is the screwballiest of screwball comedies. It is real fun. Gosford Park is like a whodunit mixed with Downton Abbey, I guess would be the version to say. Aaron apparently really likes it, and it was great. And Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Just watch it. It's fantastic. It's Steve Martin and Michael Caine as con artists trying to out-con each other.
Nice.
Watch them all. Go watch them all. Do not watch Wonder Woman. Go watch those 3 movies instead.
I watched a movie that I had really high hopes for, and I still recommend it, but lower whatever your expectations are, lower them like 1 notch for Save Yourselves. Or is it Save Yourselves or Save Yourself? Save Yourselves. It's a movie from last year about a millennial couple who go into the woods to disconnect from technology and phone and all the drama that comes with being connected. Yeah. Brilliant job indeed, Stephanie.
Got a fan.
Thanks.
Got a fan in chat.
Yay, 1 fan.
Yeah. And then while they are away,
Thank you, Karen.
While they are away with their phones turned off, the world ends, so they don't get the updates that everything has gone to shit.
Oh yeah.
And it's fine. It's like it's good performances, good characters. They explore the premise quite a while. The way they do an alien, surprise, it's aliens invades. It's not really a spoiler. On a budget is good. It's a really good low budget alien effect. And then the ending, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I didn't love the movie up to that point enough to really think about, like, I can't formulate an opinion on the ending because I don't care about what came before it quite enough, because the ending is like kind of weird and ambiguous. And I was like, okay, it's over now.
I enjoyed it for the most part. I agree with you. The ending is a bit of a letdown just because there is no a sort of resolution. Mm-hmm. It just kind of leaves things up in the air, and I don't know. It's fun
leaves
though. I would actually recommend it. Yeah, that's right. Spoilers.
Yeah, it's a light recommend.
Yeah, I think I would actually recommend it myself. And I watched something that I don't know if I talked about this in the podcast or not yet, but I watched Gunpowder Milkshake, which is pretty average. That was probably the best thing I can say about it. It's,
I'm queued up to watch it virtually with some friends next Friday, so no spoilers.
Yeah, it's just like it has all the elements of a really good sort of team up action film, and it's got the style elements of like a John Wick or maybe a Quentin Tarantino type or something like that, but it just is like in the execution, it just doesn't come to fruition, and it ends up like being boring a lot. I'm sorry to tell you that I found myself looking at my phone a lot while I was watching it, which was kind of unfortunate. I was actually really looking forward to it because the cast is stellar. The trailers made it look super exciting and fun, and yeah, so a little bit of a disappointment.
Still gonna watch it next Friday.
Yeah. Can't form an opinion of it if you don't watch it, right? So
it's true.
I didn't know what movie you were talking about, and then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, I saw the trailer for this. Yeah, it looks. Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, if that's all, I think I don't think we're gonna get too much from the rest of chat. So I think we'll call it a night. And again, say thank you to everyone for listening in. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you in September when we return.
And this was definitely kind of a proof of concept thing for us.
Mhm.
Yeah, it went
but
so
I-
well.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
like this
So
format.
we'll
Yeah.
definitely, I think we'll definitely be revisiting live shows in the future. I think it's
Yeah.
safe to say that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Indeed.
All right.
I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks again, Steph.
Of
Good night,
course.
everyone.
Also be back for sure.
Yeah,
Once
I will
we
be
once
back.
we rope you in once, we repeatedly bring you back. You can ask any of
Oh,
our guests.
excellent. Good,
Yeah, for
good.
sure.
Legit, if you do He-Man, I'm so down. Like, because I was the He-Man kid. I had all the toys.
Oh,
I had
nice.
Castle Grayskull.
We will. Okay,
Yeah.
this is my promise, and I am speaking for Greg and Liam right now. I'm putting a promise in their mouths. We will do the Masters of the Universe movie,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
really bad one,
Oh, yeah.
and we will
With
have
Dolph?
you
Dolph
back.
Lundgren.
Yes, the Dolph Lundgren one, and we will have you back to do that one.
Okay, done deal.
Nice.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, good night,
Night,
everybody.
everybody.